That
Molina
ending,
Mike.
that ending of that music's a little.
Yeah, we got to have a little fade out there. But I tell you what, you did a good job with that video. The best part of that video is Madeline.
Well,
She makes the show.
she's become. I mean, she's become part of the show for sure. You know,
She has.
so she pops up. She pops up whenever she
Lovely.
wants to. She helps herself to whatever money's on my desk and shakes me down for pencils and is real. Who's on there? You know.
That's funny. Well, hey, look, before we get going, Mike, I want to take a minute and just thank the folks who've signed up on Patreon. We got some new Patreon members, and I just want to take a minute and kind of give them a shout out. We had our latest one was from yesterday. It's Michael V from Romania. Thanks for supporting us on Patreon. Sean King, who is part of the what is it, the Pulling Around
On cue,
podcast?
there's the comment in the chat from the Pulling Around show.
Yeah, the Pulling Around show.
By the way,
Uh,
we need Sean's logo. We need
we
the
need your
logo.
logo, Sean. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
that was
Thanks.
a big Patreon support there.
Yeah, Marco Nicolas coming in as one of the supporters. Kurt Chin, and then Break and Run Promotions, and Ronnie Rose, Marlon, David Baranski. I think we've already shouted these guys out before. Patrick Nix, Post Up, and Jack Murray with the logo sponsorship. So, Mike, do you want to go around the screen there and just give a shout out to our sponsors? You hooked most of those up, so give them a
Yeah,
quick
for
shout
sure.
out.
Yeah, Jameson Daniels out of Florida, really great guy, supporting the show for a good while now, and just loves pool. Just loves supporting things in pool and loves what we got going on. Town B10, more of our corporate side. You know what I mean? They do a
I
lot of
need some of
sponsorship.
that, Mike. Well, I can't believe they're a sponsor. I can't get a cube from you. What the heck?
There, I mean, I can charge you for it.
You sold it all,
So,
didn't you?
uh, Salado, we all know who that is. Our boys Colby
Yeah.
and Reed. They just opened up a room. Also, they texted me earlier. I got a text back.
I didn't hear about this. They opened up a pool room?
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to get them on here pretty soon. But they're just great dudes. I say that
Mike,
all the time.
road trip.
Great
This
friends.
calls for a road trip.
That I'm down to do. But listen, let me tell you something. You're way too soft to be hanging around those dudes because they're wilderness, son. They're like outdoors.
I need friends like that.
You're
If
gonna get some like callus on those hands.
Hey, if the power grid goes down, I need people like that in my life because you know I won't survive.
For sure, for sure. Mariposa Q's. I don't know where this gentleman's from, but he just started supporting recently. And the website I posted before on Windows Open, I'm gonna repost everyone's link this week as well, and check out his website because they got some pretty good looking cues on there. Mob Productions, Jack and Rebecca, and then they got a business partner. We know what they do: big money, Fargo rated handicap tournaments. Also partnered up with Salado as well. They do a lot of good things all over the country. Friends of the show, supporters of the show, good people to know. And then, last but certainly not least, Moonlight and Billiards, Sandra and Jim. I had the pleasure of meeting them out at the U.S. Open. Great people. They were actually, I want to say, our first sponsor, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
first consistent. Yeah. I mean,
And
outside of like sponsors when we went to events, I think they were the first like full time show sponsor, I think.
yeah, and they're super supportive. They got great training products that you guys can go check out as well. I think they just launched a new product also. They also got cool scoreboards, which I got one over here, over my shoulder here. Here, there you go, right there. Let's go over this way. There you go. So it's fully customizable, which is great for your home room or or your pool room, your man cave, whatever you want to do. So, and we could not do it without all these guys. We couldn't do it without all of you guys who show the page love
Yeah.
as well.
Another one of our Patreons, yes to crypto in the chat here. He's like, of course you got to go live
Oh,
during our league. Sorry,
speaking
buddy.
of, I forgot to let you know. So, he actually, so Q-Tech had shown us some love when I went to the U.S. Open. Right, we did a Q. He won it. He's
Nice.
donating it. He's donating it back, and we're gonna do it
What?
again. And he's gonna send some of that money towards supporting the show as well.
How
So
cool is that?
he just hit me up today. So an Ebony 11.8 Synergy Q we're gonna have up pretty soon as well, thanks to my man over there.
Crypto. Yeah, he lives in Austin, I think, or outside of Austin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
Not a
Mike, look, I mean, I'm in Texas. I'm
oh,
here for work. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
time out. Hey, hit me up, Wayne, because I think I'm gonna head to Austin on Sunday night, and I'll be there for at least 2 days. So get at me. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Uh, Here I am in Texas. I'm here for work, and wake up first thing yesterday morning, and I see this post. I thought it was a joke. Fedor Gorst in a USA jersey. I know you and Pinozo came on and talked about it, but we haven't had a chance to really talk about it. What? Like,
Yeah.
pow, mind blown. What happened, bro?
Well, as far as I understand, as far as the public records go, you know, Federer made it in on automatic. He says, "Hey, I want to play on Team USA." Powers that be made some exemptions and typed up a nice letter on Microsoft Word, and the rest, as they say, is history. He's going to be representing a different red, white, and blue. He's going to be representing the U.S. of A. this year, and so yeah, we're going to see him in this December.
So
Great.
I'm gonna preface my thoughts with I love Fedor Gorst. I think he's a great pool player. I think he's a solid person. Everybody who meets him really loves him. He takes time to talk with the fans. He treats everybody as an equal, right? You've seen those pool players that are great pool players and they don't really talk to some people. Federer's
Right.
not like that at all. He'll talk to anyone. And I think that's why so many people in the United States have fallen in love with Fedor Gorst and cheer for him and root for him and all that. That being said, I have mixed feelings on this whole thing. So, I mean, I know there's the US players that are out there working their tail off. Some of them just traveled all the way to Asia trying to earn points all year long. Federer's on the European points list. And then right here at the last minute, now I can understand his desire to want to play for the US. And by the way, how cool was that? Because he's probably got a guaranteed paycheck playing for Europe, but he wants to play for the US, and it's going to be a lot harder to come by, right? Playing for the US.
Well, the percentages would increase significantly
Oh, yeah.
had he been playing for Europe to get the 40,000 versus the guaranteed whatever it is 20,000
Oh,
playing
yeah.
for the USA. Would
So him playing for Europe, they're probably an 80% favorite to win it, I would say. And him playing for the US now maybe
80%?
raises 75. I don't know. I mean, I think 8 out of 10 people that you poll, if you say who's going to win between Europe and the US and Federer's on Europe, 8 out of 10 people are going to say Europe. And the two people saying US are going to be US fans, basically, that are hopeful. Um, but now I think it changes the dynamic, and you might be talking about, 60-40 or something where it kind of brings things a lot closer. Because if you think about the US's uh, over the last several years, you've had Sky, who's been solid. You have Shane, who what Shane can do, and then Tyler last year, he had stepped up. He had some good matches. But then, like, after that, you're kind of wondering, well, you know, who do we have that can compete with David from Europe? Who do we have that can compete, with whoever that fourth and fifth player are going to be from Europe? And so now this changes things, right? Because now you have Shane, Sky, and Federer right there at the top. And that alone, if they come out and fire, those three alone can make a huge impact for the US.
I mean, without question, they can make a huge impact. Federer would be a number one on probably any team on earth. That includes probably the Philippines. If he was Filipino, it don't matter. Any team on earth, Federer could be a number one pick, and nobody would think twice about it. So
Yeah.
if you were like, let's say, like how for the NBA All Star Game they'll have like drafts, right? So like if you were to have, let's say, like a Jason team versus Shane team, the first pick's probably going to be Federer.
Yeah. Yeah.
The very number one pick will probably be Federer. Actually, probably be Josh because of his Mosconi experience, followed by Federer. But either way, he'll be right there. And so, you know what he can do. There's been a lot of talk as far as what he hasn't done on a bigger stage, on a matchroom stage, under those conditions. But those conversations are long gone, right? The only talk you can really have at this point is how he's gonna handle the fanfare the loud, obnoxious Europeans and the, now they're going to be even more emotional and wanting to rattle the kid because they're all, listen, those fans that are going to be there are probably pretty seasoned and they're probably well versed in how to get into somebody's head, you know.
Pretty seasoned and pretty salty.
Well, pretty seasoned in a few ways, if you know what I mean.
And pretty
So
salty for sure.
well, I mean, that's a whole other conversation, and
Mm,
so Federer's going to have a lot on his plate. There's going to be a lot of expectations, and it's but the excitement is fair, right? But then I'm not sure I understand this part is kind of fair too because we've gone all year with, we've had rankings to follow, we've been
yeah.
tracking them, we've been updating them, right? We've been talking about who's going to be number 2, who's going to be number 3, and we always break it down by team, right? Break it down by Team USA, Team Europe, and then here we go.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's one of those things where it kind of seems like if this were possible that Federer could switch sides at the last minute, then maybe it should have been accounted for all year in, keeping track of the standings and the money list and, who all was in the running. But, the other side of this is for the
oh,
United States
hold
standpoint,
on, I can real quick. This could not be further from the truth right here. So there is no like saver type deal with Federer going to the USA and compensating him any kind of difference. That is not even on the table whatsoever. And that's me knowing a lot of things, like outside of what's public. So I
yeah.
just I hate seeing rumors like that even being put out there because
On the
there's no foundation for that whatsoever.
Yeah. Now, on the positive side of this thing, so again, I feel for those American players, the BJs, the Shane Wolfords, the players that are battling it out, who thought
Yeah.
they had a chance for that third spot. And now that's going to go to Shane Van Boening. Now they got to hope to get the wild card pick, and that's
But
kind of
now there's
tough.
one
So I
less. You think you had a chance to make it in at number 3, right? You had a chance to make it at number 3 based off of money,
right,
and
controlling your own destiny essentially.
then you had the safety net of, okay, if I don't get 3, then I have 4 and 5 to fall back on, right? To
Yeah,
like hope that I'm playing good enough to get in that captain spot. Not only do you lose number 2, now you lost number 3 because Shane's an automatic. No one's going to catch up to him. And then so now you're fighting for 2 spots when a lot of people, myself included, would say Tyler's a pretty heavy favorite to get
agreed.
number 4. So which would mean now you're only fighting for one spot,
One
and
spot.
that's tough action there.
Yeah, we got some questions in the chat. Gary Gullett asks, when is the next pick? It's right after the Hanoi Open, which is going on right now.
Well,
And it's not?
it's supposed to be. Oh, the automatic will be. So Shane will be
Yeah.
announced after Hanoi. That the
Yeah. So
automatic will be. Yeah.
that's just for folks that aren't following. Shane has so many points compared to the rest of the Americans that he's a lock, right? Nobody's going to pass him for points in this event. So he's going to be the third pick for the US. And then Europe is still a little undecided. There's a bunch of players in contention there. And if somebody does really well in Hanoi, they could take that third spot over. But we'll know within a week, really, those third picks. Now, that leaves the 2 spots open for Team USA. And Mike, I'm in agreement with you 100%. I think Tyler is about as big a lock as you can get.
Throw away the
Uh,
key, son. Throw
yeah,
away the key.
yeah, and not only because of his form and the way he's playing, his relationship with Jeremy, his relationship with Shane and Sky. I mean, and really
Well,
the way he looked last year in the event. I mean, you and I have said it all year long that he went from being that younger guy that like does he really belong to now all of a sudden he's there. We've even
yeah.
talked about him maybe being the third best U.S. player, which I guess now would be the fourth best U.S. player because
Well,
Federer.
he's matured a lot, not
Yeah,
just like in his person, but in his game.
yeah,
And I had a real like candid conversation with him. One of the last days out there at the U.S. Open, and it was like he kind of rubbed people the wrong way for a lot of years because maybe he thought his game was better than what it was, and now I think his game is there where he thought it was, and then some. I think Tyler's playing great. I think he plays great against big names. I think he plays great on that stage. I think for
mhm,
my money, through the first like day and a half of Mosconi or whatever, maybe the first 2 days, I thought he was the MVP for Team USA.
Look great. Yeah.
He looked really good.
Yeah.
And so I love the way that kid's playing now, and I think he's also transitioning into being more of a leader because now he's been there, done that. He's been there on winning teams. He's been there on losing teams. He's been in there to fight. He's been a part of starting that momentum shift by getting a big match under his belt, or maybe he thought he was an underdog in the Mosconi Cup. So Tyler's kind of been through the gauntlet, so to speak. And so, yeah, I'd be shocked if he's not on there. But then that means, hey, listen, you got one spot you're basically playing for if you're the rest of those
Yeah.
guys.
Who do you like, assuming that Tyler gets spot 4, who do you like for spot 5, Mike? I got pretty strong feelings about this.
Um, you know, if if it was, what are we in October now? So if
Yeah.
it was 3 months ago, right? It's Wolford and it ain't even close. It's Wolford and it's not close, son. Now it's a lot closer. Now it's a lot closer. But if here's the other thing you got to consider, okay? So let's say Shane gets number 3, but if Fedor is not there and Wolford would have been number 3, do you kind of owe it to him because basically he's gonna get the shit end of the stick? Do you owe it to him to be like, hey, this would have been your spot, so we're gonna give it to you, even though is he hitting on all cylinders right now? I don't know. It's kind of been
Well, he
so.
got he got kind of a raw deal last year with Earl. I think a lot of people expected Wolford, and he didn't make it. This year, here's my feeling. Before Fedor came to the U.S., I was in favor of Billy for that 5th spot, right? Thinking that it would be, Shane, Sky, Tyler, Billy, and who am I forgetting? Shane, Sky, Tyler, Billy,
mm,
and
Lucas,
Wolford. I
AJ.
was picking those 5.
No.
Okay,
Oh, I'm
but
sorry. I
but
hear you.
Wolford's kind of faltered. He even we mentioned at the U.S. Open he didn't play great, and then he put out posts saying how he was slumping and things that you just don't want to hear this time of year.
Yeah,
It's just not good optics.
it's not. It's not. It's
Yeah,
not. I love the honesty, but then it's like, right, not
yeah.
right now.
You got to
Right
think
now.
about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so when I heard about the Federer situation, one name came to mind. One name who's tight with Federer, who's tight with all the other American players, who brings seasoning and experience. And really, we didn't get a whole lot to look at last year, not a lot of table time, and that's Oscar. I really think, in terms of building a team that can work together and get this thing done, I think Oscar would be a great 5th pick for the U.S.
Well.
And
Okay.
normally
So
you're the one campaigning for Oscar in February
I
all the way
look.
through the
This is
year.
Here's
But
the
I
deal.
really think he brings a great element to those 4 folks, if assuming it is Tyler with pick 4. He gets along with all of them.
He
He
does.
he's got a ton of experience,
He does.
and for a 5th pick, I'd take him any day.
Look, I try to just cool it when it comes to the Oscar talk because everyone knows that I'm really good friends. Like, I mean, really good friends. We talk. We're messaging like every day. You
I
know.
know. When you go to
So
tournaments,
he's
you're the little spoon, he's the big spoon. I know.
he's a really good friend. So I really try to, like, especially now given the Mosconi season, right? I want to be fair to the conversation. Now, Oscar hadn't been playing a whole lot, and that's fair to the conversation. Everything you said is also fair to the conversation because all those things you said are 1,000,000% accurate. I was there at the U.S. Open, and I got to see a lot of Oscar's matches. I was sweating a lot of them.
How do you
Right?
look?
He played Max incredibly tough. He beats Chen, the Taiwanese player, who's a monster, by the way. When I thought he was an underdog going into single elimination, right? Beats him. I'm like, okay, that's a pretty big win, right? And it was it was scrappy. Oscar comes out to a big lead. I think he was up 8-1. Guy comes back to 8-6. Finally, Oscar puts him away, right? But had him like nipping at the heels.
Mhm.
Against Max, neck and neck, nip and tuck, nip and tuck. Oscar locked him up, man. I mean, played some great saves on him. I mean, like jail saves, Joe. Max's kicking was unbelievable. I mean, kick return saves by Max. Even afterwards, I was joking. It's him. Mario, and I forget who else. I think Daniel Gutenberger. And I was like, I want to take a picture with Efren because the dude was just kicking unbelievable. Oscar was playing the right shot and executing. Now he loses to Max. What was it, like 9-6, somewhere
Something like
in,
that. Yeah.
in that range, right? But it could have just as well been the other way around if it wasn't for those unbelievable saves. Max goes on to make, I think, what was it,
Quarters.
quarterfinals?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
quarters.
so that just shows where his form was at into that. Um, Oscar is playing really good. I mean, really good, and and I was surprised. I'll be perfectly. I was really surprised. But it's a question of whether or not he's done enough throughout the year. He's got to make a run in Hanoi for me to be able to, I think, really solidify an argument. I think with everything that's going on, like you're going to have the third automatic pick after Hanoi, which we know will be Shane. But then it's how far out are you going to give 4 and 5, right? Because we saw a year before where Jeremy wanted to after the international when the famous Earl pick was in.
Hmm.
So if he goes that route, then it's really going to be a fight to the finish for these last few guys. But you can listen. You are playing in Vietnam right now with the best players, not all the best players, but a big portion of the best players on earth, right? And we all know
Yeah.
how tough the Asian players play. So if you have a good run here, it's going to be weighted. It'll be weighted pretty good,
Yeah.
So um, I'm super excited to see how he performs. Obviously, I root for the guy personally, you know. And like I said, if I didn't see his matches, my position probably would be I don't think he's done enough to be a part of the conversation this year, but I saw it, and so that's
Well,
where I'm
yeah, and I
that's
didn't
where
see his matches, and I'm not even talking about his
I'm at.
current form. I'm talking about the presence
But
that
you
he
got to weigh
brings.
current form with every
I
player, bro.
understand. I understand. But,
Yeah,
thinking about the way he interacts, we went out to dinner with him and Tyler. We see how they interact. We know he's
yeah.
close with Fedor. When Fedor comes to California, they play a set, which I didn't they play a set and Fedor beat him like Hill or something? Wasn't that Fedor? Or was that somebody else?
I don't remember what you're talking about, to be honest.
Okay. Anyway, I
Sorry.
thought Fedor came to
Yeah,
California and Oscar
yeah,
played him a set.
yeah.
But anyway, um, yeah, I just feel like Oscar now that the depth chart has changed. This is no disrespect to the other American players in the running, but now that you have Federer, it's almost like there's a little bit less importance to that fifth pick now, right? It's not like you're going to have um, three kind of players that you're hoping they do well. Well, you got three strong players at the top, and
Aces. You got
now you got to
aces, son.
yeah, now you got to fill the roster with people who are going to
Role
bring
players.
camaraderie, be the right personalities to mesh with the team. I think that's even more important now than it has been for the
Look,
U.S.
I've been seeing a lot of chatter online, and I don't know if they're Americans or Europeans. Really makes no difference to me. But
Uh,
the argument is, hey, Europe's 4 and 5 are going to be better than our 4 and 5.
yeah,
Hey, listen. If Josh ain't in that mix, and you have and Clenty is one armed, and you don't know what you're going to go and get, right? And then you pick in any other, strong European tournament player. Listen, give me Tyler and his experience over Mario, over Kachi right now with the big question mark, right?
Albin.
Albin right now. Well, I don't know. Albin is a different animal in December. Albin is a different animal. You got to give
That's
the
why I
man
threw him
respect
out there.
where yeah, you got to give him respect where it's due.
What about
But you
Niels?
but listen, you saw Tyler have Neil's number on more than one occasion. So he can get there with him. But that's where the big question mark is. And if you have rookies get a spot, because look, they're the number 2 spot. What are we at right now on team? No, number 3 spot on Team Europe is wide open.
Yeah,
Anybody who makes a decent run can lock up that third spot. If an Alexa gets in there, great player, love the way
yeah,
he plays, right? But you're telling me that 1 through 3 is gonna be better than Team USA's 1 through 3? I don't think so.
yeah.
If Mario steals a spot and gets an automatic, which I would love, by the way, because I love rooting for that guy. Also, you're gonna tell me that 1 through 3 is better than ours? Psh, come on, come on.
So
So
FSR, David and Mario, you would go with Shane, Sky, and Federer over them.
yes, 100% in the Mosconi Cup. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Bold
You know,
statement.
yeah. I think because look, it's with Francisco, there was a lot of question marks last year, right? And he played great. But you also got to keep in mind who was in your foxhole when you're playing great. When you got Jason, Josh, who else was it? Albin, right? When you got seasoned guys who were there, which we don't know if these guys are going to be there. We don't know if Josh is going to be there. We don't know if Albin's going to be there. You're going to play different having to be number one. And I said this with Mike the other day. You play Shane played differently when the weight of the world was on his shoulders and he had nobody else playing with
That's
him,
true.
right?
Yeah.
Right? When he had to be number one, he had to live up to those expectations because he was the hope, right?
Yeah.
It's a whole different animal when you got a bunch of rookies out
So
there.
you keep saying if Josh isn't there, if Josh isn't there. Like, what makes you think Josh isn't going to be the wild card pick? I mean, I can't imagine a Mosconi Cup without Josh Filler.
Well, I mean, listen, there's a lot going on in the world, Joe. A lot going on in the pool world. Okay, so the all this WPA talk,
Could that really have
Josh,
an impact here?
Josh conveniently misses Hanoi for the sake of being in, or he just left Qatar. By the way, congratulations to him because it was a
Made a lot of
fantastic match.
money, tax
Made it,
free.
of course, wonderful money. Wonderful money. I hope him and Pia enjoy it. But listen, you
Had his
skip.
picture on a building. Don't
Look,
forget about that.
when I asked Emily back in May, April, May, I said, "What event is going to be the biggest of the year?" And I'm thinking like I'm leading her into talking about the U.S. Open, right? Because the U.S. Open is the U.S. Open. Didn't
Yeah.
miss a beat. Asian Open, which is now the
What?
Hanoi Open. Yeah,
No.
yeah. This is so important to them, Joe. So
Match room.
important to them. Yeah, so important to them. And when you have a guy like Josh who doesn't attend, it ain't gonna look. Listen, you call in sick to the Connecticut Open, right? Call in sick to whatever the Perry Open. You can call in sick to too, right? You call in sick wherever you want. Not to the
Not not
Hanoi Open,
Hanoi.
not a major like that. It's a different. It's different, So
I
I
don't
don't.
know. I still isn't it amazing how much has changed just this year? At the
Just in the
beginning of
last
this
two
year,
weeks, Joe. In the last two
well, I
weeks.
know, but at the beginning of this year, we were having conversations about no matter what the points say, Jason and Josh are gonna be 4 and 5 picks for Team Europe if they don't qualify, right? There was no doubt about that. Never a question about it. And so now this whole Matchroom WPA thing comes in. Josh goes to Qatar. He doesn't go to Hanoi. And now you're talking about like you're if you had to bet on this, you would bet on Josh not being on the Mosconi Cup.
2 weeks ago, I would have listen. I would have
You would
bet
have
the
fired
house,
at it.
everything that guy's making the Mosconi Cup 2 weeks ago. A lot's changed in the last couple of weeks, Joe. A lot has changed.
Yeah.
And these are things that are affecting pool players all across the world, right? And like anything else, listen, you what is it? You make your bed, you lay in it, right? And I'm not saying Josh is wrong for choosing one way, and I don't even know what choice he's made, if he's even made a choice, right? But even if it's perceived a certain way, you kind of have to live with it. You're a big boy; it's just part of life. And so, if he's not, listen, I think he ought to be on that team. But if he's not, you're gonna have a team with more rookies on there than what maybe you thought you were a couple of weeks ago. If you're Ralph Eckert, so which I think just further favors Team USA.
Yeah.
So um, yeah, I don't know. WPA world thing. Who is this guy? He might know a thing or two, right? By the way,
Yeah.
Jeremy, I'm expecting a message back because I did reach out to get Jeremy Jones on the show. I want to get his reaction to the Fedor news. I want to talk about numbers 4 and 5 because we know number 3 is a lock. So I'm gonna keep
Hey,
on knocking on that door and get him on sometime this week.
so I tell you what, for a joke sometimes, my daughter, who's a gymnast, asked me to do a cartwheel. And I
Can
want
you
to
do one?
know barely, but I want to know what Jeremy Jones cartwheels look like after he found out that Fedor Gorst was going to be on Team USA. I mean, he must have done like 5 or 6 cartwheels in a row and been super excited about that news. But I mean, it changes everything for Team USA. It really does.
I mean, look, there was talk about a lot of question marks with Jeremy lead into it. You got a squad now. You got a
Yeah.
team now. Listen, you got Jeremy's a big baseball fan, right? When you got a 1, 2, and a 3
Yeah.
aces on your starting rotation,
Yeah.
guess what? It's World Series or bust.
Yeah.
And this year, look, man, I'm not even every year, Joe, I bet on Team Europe every single year,
Yeah.
right? I'm not so confident this year. I'm not,
Well,
because
last
if
time we had Jeremy on, I threw you under the bus and I told him that, what you were thinking in private. I didn't realize I was going to rat you out like
no,
that.
it
But
wasn't private. It
does
wasn't
this put
private.
more pressure on Jeremy?
No, I don't think so. I think it makes them listen. I think by it makes the moves are going to be the moves, right? And everyone's going to know their place in the pecking order, right? Sky is clutch, right? Even though Fedor is a monster, there's still a little bit of question marks. Although Fedor will probably get in as a fan's choice, I would guess. I would think maybe on
I was thinking about that. There's
you
really
know
no telling, I
but,
think.
okay, but here, what worst case scenario is? You still got SVB who's going to be there playing the fans' choice, right? So how good is that, right? Like
Yeah.
how sweet of a deal is that, right?
Yeah.
You still got to play the game the right way, but it's a whole different argument when you got three aces going up against a couple of rookies, Joe, at the Mosconi Cup. Because then here's the deal: you're playing in your basically on your home turf. There's even more expectations for the Europeans to really just beat the Americans, right? And a lot of those guys, if they are rookies, you know what's going to happen, Joe? They're going to tighten up a little bit. They're going to tighten up, and you're going to
I don't,
see.
I don't know. You're talking about
Oh,
world class players here, whether they're rookies or not. That kid Alexa, the way he played at the U.S. Open, I tell you
oh
what,
God,
that
oh
was
God, that kid,
unbelievable the
that
way
kid
he
is some
played.
poised, Joe, poised
Yeah.
under pressure. That kid is cold blooded, man. That kid is not. I said this during the show, I think, with me and you. He's not supposed to play that good. You're supposed to dog it off on that stage. You know, that kid was ruthless. He
Oh
did
yeah.
not he did not rattle at all. His
Yeah.
execution was top shelf. He didn't look overcome, or he didn't wear anything that like the normal guys wear. Even
Yeah.
guys who have been there, right? Even you can name a player, they'll go back to their thing and they'll take a big old gulp of water and they'll wipe their face and their hands. And that kid was just get out.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know if Shorty Dancer's serious in here, one of our Patreon supporters, but he keeps talking about Earl Strickland. Let's just get Jeremy's in here. Okay, let's just not
come
plant
on,
that in his head. No more
come on
Earl
now,
this year.
come on now.
So, Mike, I got a question for you. If you're Jeremy, when it comes to making lineups, those matches that are going to be critically important.
Right.
And if it's coming down to a point where we absolutely need, right? United States needs to win a match, and you have Shane, Sky, or Fedor that you can put up. Who you putting up?
Whew. A lot of it will
It's fun to
depend
have
on.
three choices now, right? Because in the past it would have been Shane or Sky, and we had this conversation before. But Shane, Sky, or Fedor in that must-win match, who you going with?
I think last year there was talk of that possibility, and Shane said, "I want it." You know, I think it'll it'll be Shane's until he doesn't want it, is what I would say, because Shane is still Shane, and you got to respect that man's wishes. Now, if he says, and I don't think there's any ego there. I don't think there's any ego with any one of them. Not with Sky, not with Shane, and not with Federer. So I think that if Sky and Shane were to say, "Hey, he's playing better," I think they would honestly be like, "Hey, you go in there, you go handle your business,"
Yeah, so you
But
think it might
but
be based on who's playing better at the event so far? I
right.
mean, you
But it's
really
still
can't go
it
wrong with those three. They can all get
Shane's
up
got
and
first
play.
refusal though. Shane's got first refusal on that. It's yours. If you don't want it, okay, let's talk about it. And I think that Jeremy, Sky, Shane all have enough of a rapport and have been together with so many years where they trust each other's judgment. They take into account what everyone says, and they kind of understand where they would be coming from. So, but I mean, it may
It's
not even
fun
come
to
to that. Yeah.
it's fun to speculate about this now. And if you remember
Mosconi's
back when Fedor was a rookie in Mosconi, we talked about how that could be a thorn in the side for Team Europe, and that might be an advantage that US has, even though he's probably the best player on the planet. That he was a rookie, and what was he going to do? And if you remember, he came out and he had a shaky ball or two early on, but then he played super solid in that Mosconi Cup for Europe. And so I feel like not only are you getting Fedor in top form, you're getting Fedor with a Mosconi under his belt, even for Team Europe, but
Oh,
still that
it's not. It's
experience
not.
in playing in that environment.
You can't even throw in that no audience Mosconi Cup. That's not even a part of the conversation. That's not Mosconi Cup. You know, that's not
You think
that's
that
not a
would
part of
affect Fedor?
the audience. Of course, he's never been in that situation ever, ever.
That's
You
an
cannot
interesting point. You
you
just made a
you
good point.
you cannot recreate it. You know,
You
you
just made a
cannot.
good point because they were in Europe with no fans, and now they're going to be in Europe with fans
Wanting
against
to
him.
get in your head. They're
Yeah,
gonna go out of their way. Listen, it's
that's a good
they're
point.
they're writing this down. The number one thing is I need to get in that kid's head. I want to rattle him and I want to make him sweat and I want to make sure that he knows every single ball that we're hoping he dogs his brains. And that's exactly what they're gonna want. That's exactly what they're gonna try to do. And you can't you can't recreate those moments, man. You cannot recreate those situations. It's just it's gonna happen. I guarantee you it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
You know?
Shorty Dancer's right. There is going to be a chat. It's going to be an interesting chat.
A
Or
chance, no chance.
chance. Sorry,
And
chance. Not
listen,
chance.
those Europeans are really good at coming up with
Very
some witty
creative.
stuff, man. I love those guys for doing that,
Yeah,
So,
definitely. It's
but
going to
this
be
is
a lot of fun, man. And you know what? Leave it to Matchroom to like turn on a dime like this and do something that might be controversial, but we're going to be talking about for the next several months, and we're going to be excited about. And the ones, I think there's a few Americans that kind of took this not well, and they were really upset for the players that have been chasing the points. And there was a tinge of like, the whole should be an American, and he's not, he's from Russia, he's not really American type of thing. But in a way, this kind of symbolizes what America is, right? That you know it's a big
I,
melting pot, and we have welcomed Federer with open arms as a country, with the struggles that he's had over the
I
last couple
come
of
from a
years.
family of immigrants, Joey. I love that story. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that hits home. You know,
yeah, definitely, definitely. And it's interesting because right now my daughter wants to be an Olympic gymnast, but to be an Olympic gymnast in the United States, can you imagine? You got to be one of like the 10 best girls, period, in the entire country.
dream high.
However, it's not a big a deal in Brazil. So she's got dual citizenship because my wife's Brazilian. So she could compete for Brazil in the Olympics. And this is becoming a big deal in a lot of sports. Soccer, Mexico is recruiting kids from Southern California of Mexican descent to play for Team Mexico. So, I mean, we're seeing this all over the place now. And I think we're going to see more of it in the future. But I think this is, like I said in the beginning, I have mixed feelings about it because my heart does go out to BJ Ussery. You and I were probably partially responsible for BJ. We've been talking about him for 2 years and getting people excited about the possibility of him maybe making his own points and, doing his thing. And now he's going out to more events. And so, for a guy like that, it's kind of tough, because he's out there grinding
A
it out,
hard pill to
trying to get
swallow.
there. Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah.
by the way, I see Gary Gullett's comment in there about a video on Patreon. Rule number one about Patreon, Gary. What happens in Patreon
Stays in
stays
pain.
stays in Patreon. All right, buddy. You hear no evil, you see no evil, you speak no evil. All right. Going back to your question, it is a hard pill to swallow for a guy like BJ and for a lot of these guys. And
Yeah.
that's something that, as much as you want to celebrate and be excited for Federer, and that's well within, it's very reasonable to do so, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there's also that other side of the coin, and all these guys, like I talked about with Mike, they're going to say everything right, like they ought to publicly, but I'm sure maybe they feel a little bit differently privately. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong; they're happy to have that kid on the team. They know he's an asset to Team USA.
Yeah.
But then they also know the realization is that it's one less spot for me.
Yeah.
So where I thought I had a really good chance up until a few days ago. So, but
But then
listen,
again, you're upping the
adversity
standard,
builds
right?
character. Of
We
course,
need we need something to up the standard in the United States, right? And if Federer now is an American, we've adopted him. He's part of Team USA. That's just another great player that we have in our stable to help raise the level of maybe some of those younger players. Maybe take a Shane Wolford under his wing and kind of help to
who
motivate him, like Federer. You know what
Fedor's
I
a
mean? Like,
Fedor's a me guy. Fedor's not a team guy. He's been on the record saying that. I wouldn't buy that part. I wouldn't go that far anyway. You know, like taking anybody under his wing.
well, I'm just saying, as part of, like, You could have said the same thing about other Americans, but once you get in that Mosconi environment with teammates, and then you're trying to build something, it changes things. So I don't know.
Look, there goes Raymond's comment in there. For all the traveling Americans, having Fedor in as a wild card shows good faith to the guys who spent all year spending money and time to improve.
Yeah. Well, look, if Fedor was qualified for the second spot for Team Europe, which he was, but didn't want to play for Europe, wanted to play for the US, how do you get out of that one? Matchroom can't just take David and then say, well, we're just going to hold Fedor off, and then Jeremy takes him as a wild card. I mean, so the logistics of that would have been pretty tough, I think. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, for sure, for sure.
Anyway, it's fun to talk about, and it's one of those things. It's somebody mentioned online, like, the timing of Matchroom is impeccable, right? You have the vote in Qatar, and you had the press release about that, and we did a little show about that, and then, like, literally the next day, Matchroom comes out and drops a bomb on it with the announcement of Fedor Gorst for Team USA, and just takes over the internet. Have you ever seen the internet explode with such pool news? I haven't.
I mean, not back to back, you
Nothing
know,
like this.
not like this.
Nothing.
I mean, this was it was intense, man. It was real intense couple of days, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, Mike, what's going on in Hanoi? You want to talk about that?
Um, I mean, what are you gonna do? It's the first day one of, well, actually day two of the Hanoi Open starts pretty soon. It's a 12-hour difference from where we're at right now. Um, the first round was pretty par for the course. I think the only real upset was Carlo Biato losing in the first round, but other than that,
Who do you
it
lose
was
to?
a Vietnamese player. If I'm not,
Really?
yeah,
Hold
yeah,
on. I'm looking now. Hold on.
yeah. But a lot of these threats that have been coming out recently really hindered the playing field, the player field, I should say. Not just the amount of players, but the quality of the field as well. Polish players aren't there. Uh, Obviously we know about Josh, things like that. So they had a lot of last minute players falling out because of these ACBS threats, but they managed to put on what so far has been a pretty great event. And we're only a day into it. So the excitement out there seems really awesome. I've been talking with players, and they say, like, the enthusiasm and energy from the fans has been surreal. The venue looks phenomenal, absolute top shelf.
Hmm.
And then the coverage has just been what you expect and then some. So
I
um,
did see a post from Billy Thorpe talking about just how hot it was inside the venue. I don't know if you saw that. He was basically dripping sweat, he said, as he won his second match. Have you heard that from any other players?
no, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either. Dripping sweat. I didn't, but then,
It's kind of
hey, yeah.
kind of disgusting.
I mean, you gotta,
The sweat. Can we get a sweat foul in this tournament? Beat a
right,
sweat
if
drop on a
on the
ball.
ball, yeah. Listen, it's all ball fouls. What are you gonna do?
Oh gosh,
But I
is
think
Hunter there?
they kind of went through that in the Europe and the Spanish Open, and part of what I enjoy seeing, I think if it is that hot in there, it'll make the conditions just that much tougher. So we're
Yeah,
really gonna get to see some pretty high level pool alongside that. So
yeah.
it adds to the overall experience.
Hey,
For me.
Beato lost in the second round to Ngo Quang Trung, Vietnamese player, and he lost 9-8. Hill, and he was one of the ones. Carlo was one of the ones that basically had a bye. Played against the no show, and that's what I reached out to you and asked you, Mike. Is there were a lot of no shows, a lot of empty spots in this bracket. And I was just curious as to why. I think I counted like 26 or 27 essentially buys in this tournament. Any thoughts on that?
Um,
It's not like a Matchroom event, especially one that
no, I mean, I
Emily
just
said she's looking at as being like the premier event.
yeah, and I mean, look, that's what are you gonna do if you're in their shoes, right? It's a different world today, in the pool world, and you can thank the WPA and their associates for it being like this. So
So you think this is because of the Asian Federation?
Million percent, I do. I mean, I don't have any doubt in my mind. I mean, I've literally heard it from players' mouths at the U.S. Open. Like I told you before in other shows, this is something that I heard the moment I walked in the room. So players are taking the threat seriously. And there's also, depending on the federation that they're associated with, there's repercussions for if they were to go. So not every country and federation is the same. But you know, it's not them showing support for the WPA or them showing support for the ACBS, things like that. It's, hey, it's a volatile situation right now. We're just gonna bow out. So, um, but like a guy like Huang, we talked about him before.
Has any one player come out and said that they will play in WPA events strictly? Has any one player come out and thrown their support? We've seen
So
decisions.
I know
We've
like
seen
Darren
decisions
said
where
that
like
he was at.
Josh went to Qatar, Victor went to Qatar. We know they have strong federations, but we haven't seen any player, have we, come out and say, I'm behind WPA?
No, not like that. There's a lot of players that are, on the fence, that I heard privately, and then some that are, I guess, starting to come out now and say, I'll find out. Even Josh's comment, right? We'll see what the future holds. That's pretty much saying that he's not saying I'm with the WPA, but he's saying I'm not sure yet. So, and that's fair. I think everyone's got the right to make an informed decision that suits them best, and I'm not gonna, you know, knock them for that. This is the one thing that I will say though. You got a guy like Shane, right? Shane was going to Qatar, hears about the ACBS stuff, says, I don't support that. I don't support banning players. And I was there when he's talking to Huang's manager, and Huang's right there, and he's saying, I'm doing it for you guys. I'm making a stand by not going to Qatar for you guys because it's not right with how they're treating you, and I don't
I like
respect
that
that.
solidarity. Yeah.
I don't respect that, and I don't believe in that. So it's in this whole situation that's happening now is going to affect players for the next 10 years. I really believe that plus, you know. So the decisions that are made are very very important right now, you know. So when you got a guy, for me, when you got a guy on the way out in his career like Shane is, because he said that more than once, he doesn't know how many more years he has left. He's making decisions that are going to affect these younger players.
Yeah.
And then if you got a guy like, and I hate to say it, but a guy like Josh, who's young, who would see those kind of benefits, kind of go the other way, it's a little, it kind of leaves a bitter taste in your mouth when I think about it. You know,
Not just is he young, he's married to a professional pool player, and that could have a major impact on what she's able to do as well. Correct?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. You
Yeah.
know, and I mean, I don't know. Listen,
So
it's
you got the
different because
three pool power couples right now. You got Josh and Pia, you have Margaret and Tyler, and you have Fedor and Christina. And they could be in a situation, depending on what they choose, where the husbands aren't able to play, in the same locations as the wives, right? Because, the husbands choose Matchroom and the wives are playing in WPA events, and the husbands can't like go to Vegas and play in the World 10 Ball because they're banned, or Puerto Rico, or these other locations where they're having these WPA sanctioned events
But
now
there's
because they're banned.
a whole other, side to this argument that they've just conveniently decided to stay out of the conversation. When they're everyone, listen, you can't say that we're an industry leader and that we're the number one, in sponsorship. We're the number one in Q companies that are putting on events. We're the number one this. We're the number one that. And then you want to be quiet during all this. That doesn't sit well with me. That doesn't fly with me. You got a chance to really show what you're about, and your silence is showing to me what you're about. So
Well, Paco
um,
has a comment in here. How many guys sponsored by Predator right now not playing in the tournament today? And I haven't really noticed that. Obviously, Josh is sponsored by Predator. He's not in Hanoi, but there are players sponsored by Predator that are in Hanoi, right? Tyler, right? Didn't Tyler make the trip?
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So I mean, there's
As
Predator
far as I
players.
know, Predator hasn't told them
I don't
explicitly,
believe. Yeah, it doesn't
anything
appear
like
as
that.
though Predator is restricting any of their movements, but that
Right.
will be an interesting development to watch as well.
Well,
Also, people are,
even if they do say it off the record, nobody will ever come out and say that on the record because they'll
yeah,
never want to take that kind of PR hit at all, you
yeah,
know. And so I mean they're not the WPA, you know, so
yeah,
they're not that dumb. So but no, I mean you have a real opportunity here, and it's an uncomfortable time for everyone, right? But voices make a really big difference. And if you say you respect the players and you support the players, there's one really big way to do that. Hey, listen, we don't support bands. It's real simple. We're not going to be associated with any kind of association that if you're banning players, right? It's not it's real easy unless you're in bed with them,
yeah.
you know. So and I don't think that there's any kind of exception or excuse or any of that for me. But we'll see. Time will tell.
I'm
You know,
I'm kind of looking through the brackets right now for Hanoi, and I'm looking at the different flags in here. You see a lot of Filipino flags. One that surprises me is a lot of flags from Singapore, and of course, like Aloysius Yap is probably the biggest name there, and he's on the bracket for Hanoi. He hasn't played yet, and that would be a pretty big breach of the Asian Federation. Is that right, Mike? If he
well, they're
plays,
already banned. They're already banned. Why
they're
the hell
already
wouldn't
banned.
they go? They're
They're
already
gone.
banned. Yeah, they're already banned.
Is
So
that's from that snooker event? Is that right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So they had a snooker championship in their country. The ACBS then levied down bans on their pool players because that association had a non-sanctioned event, although albeit a different discipline, and so it was across the board. So
Brutal. And then the news drops, what was it today, about issues with snooker, with the top players not attending a snooker event to go do more of an exhibition. And so this is just kind of rearing its ugly head all over Q Sports. And it's really a shame. You know, like you and I have said for day one, we're going to support what's best for the players and we're going to be pretty vocal about it. You know, and if we feel like any organization is shafting the players, we're going to talk about it. Just so
of
happens that in
course,
this case, it's the WPA. And when they were on the show, and Aishan was on the show talking about we are the authority, we are the authority. Well, you know, you're the one that's restricting players' movements and what they can do and how they can earn a living. And that's just not right. I'm sorry.
which by the way, so I have reached out to Aishan. I've said it a couple times already. Has not returned my email, which I'm really surprised considering how well last time went. Um, but uh, yeah, I'm still hopeful. I'm still hopeful and optimistic. So we shall see. They will be welcomed on the show, and we'll be glad to talk about them, or not about them, but to them, and have a discussion. So
And then talk
um,
about them
and then talk about them,
afterwards.
yeah, afterwards. But I'm also going to reach out to Shane Tyree of the BCA, also the vice president of the WPA, and more so on the BCA side of things because I want to know how he intends to handle things as it pertains on the home front and with the American players because that's a really big deal and it's something that needs to be discussed and we're going to be the ones to do it. So, and you know, it's happening all over the world right now. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty with players. There's a lot of federations who are not in agreement with what the WPA has passed. I know that for a fact. And so we're
I'm
not.
really, I'm really curious to see the impact this is going to have on the women. I really am. We saw this with the WPA and April Larson a couple years ago when they weren't allowing her to compete in WPBA events because she had competed in like a regional event or something like that. And the way this wording came down from WPA, it's we still haven't got clarification on are they only talking about matchroom events or are they talking about Turning Stone? Are they talking about, you know, the Big Dogs tournament in Iowa? You know, so kind of curious to get that clarification. And maybe it was intentionally vague. I don't know.
By the way, so I have reached out to Kelly's manager to try to get her on the show as well. So, and it was specifically to talk about this WPA situation as the player rep. So, um, wow,
You see
wife and
this
I just got
comment?
to Puerto Rico. Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
I've seen this. I wanted to bring this up to you, Mike, because I know of a high level amateur player out of the East Coast who said the same thing. He said, "I just withdrew my registration from Puerto Rico and from Las Vegas because they don't support what's happening with the WPA." So I wonder what kind of backlash and what kind of impact this could have to CSI and their events out in Vegas and different things like that. So
We know their partnership with Predator, and Predator's partnership with the WPA. So I mean, these are all very public things that are out there, and listen, like the pool world is small enough where if the players stand together, it can make a difference, But you gotta, it's kind of like anything else, right? You gotta want to help yourself, right? You can't help those that don't want to help themselves. Players have a real opportunity to kind of stand up for what's in their best interest for the long term here, um, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what they decide to do. With our buddy John Francisco. So and listen, you can speak in many different ways, right? We're a couple of donkeys who have a podcast. There's people who want to speak in ways of withdrawing their entry fees and spending their tourist dollars in that country or whatever they want to do. God bless you. So let your voice be heard, man.
there was a comment online from Charlie Williams who mentioned that this came up before in the past with the IPT, right? So IPT comes out, huge money events, not sanctioned by the WPA, and there was threats that players wouldn't be allowed to play in WPA events, and basically all the players told them to pound sand. And within 30 days, they released a statement saying that basically they were retracting their position on that. So I do think that if players could band together, they could maybe force the federations to kind of reconsider. But you have that added pressure now of this being a global game and you having these federations, these continental federations and country federations that now have quite a bit of influence and power over the players from Poland, let's say, or Germany. And so it's a lot stickier situation now and a lot less money than what the IPT was offering. What did Efren win for winning that first IPT event? 200,000 or something?
Yeah, six figures.
Yeah, it was
Um,
crazy. So,
yeah, and I mean, look, I we've had public opinions and discussions with all of these people, but we're very aware of how powerful these organizations are. Very powerful, and you see that in a lot of players' silence as well, right? Because the things that they choose not to say publicly,
mhm.
So the difference is that they can't hold anything over our heads, So, and that's why even more so, I feel like we gotta have these discussions as uncomfortable as they may be, So, but I'm hopeful, and and there's still a lot of time left between now and March, so maybe they'll come back to the table, maybe they won't. Either way, Matchroom seems like they're full steam ahead, right? I don't think their calendar is going to get any less busy next year. Um, we talk about the Mosconi Cup year round. If they add the Reyes Cup, guess what? Now we just had an extra element added into that conversation year round,
Checkmate.
Joe. Year
Sounds like
around.
checkmate. Yeah.
Every single part of the world, it becomes even more exciting, and you're all eyes, and you're going to be scoreboard watching, and who's making moves on who, So
Mhm.
you're going to be seeing all these things just take an even more accelerated path, like all year,
Yeah.
all year long, and then I want to see more twists along the way too. So
Yeah,
um,
it's
that's great.
definitely gonna be interesting, and if I'm on board, the one that makes the jerseys for the Mosconi Cup, I would be printing Fedor Gorst USA jerseys like they're going out of style right now because I guarantee they're gonna sell like crazy.
Do
I
they
don't know.
sell jerseys like with the player's last name
They
on them?
should. I tell you what, they should. Because you know how it is, Mike, when a big free agent signs with the Cowboys or signs somewhere, it ends up being the
Jersey sales.
oh yeah.
Yeah, look, it was it
Off
Messi with in Miami. You
Yeah.
know,
I tell you, my kids are into card collecting right now. Baseball cards, basketball, football, that kind of stuff. I would love to see. You've done a lot of memorabilia, a lot of signed stuff with pools, signed programs, signed cues, things
all
like
this stuff
that.
I got in my office is
Yeah,
all
I would
signed by
love to
players.
see something a little more formalized with that. Like, think about it. To have the first edition of Fedor Gorst USA jersey, right, and then get Fedor to autograph it and hang it in your pool room, that would be super cool. So, just a thought.
Yeah. We'll have more reaction for the. Have we been live for 2 hours? There's no way.
It
No, we've been
says
live.
2 hours. It can't be
All right.
2 hours.
No, we've been live for 2 hours.
It's been 1 hour. That's so
Listen,
weird.
we still got to do. We still got to do a show just dedicated to the Hanoi Open. So probably if you're free, Joey, later on this week or tomorrow, we'll try to do something just looking through the brackets and seeing who's gone where. Look to see who's qualified through the round of 64 and who's fighting to stay ahead. We'll look at those players who are fighting for Mosconi Cup spots as well. Tons to discuss. I'm excited to see the matches starting probably here in the next few hours out there in Vietnam. And it's a great time, man. Like, and it's nonstop. It's nonstop year round, and it seems like I don't know how they do it, man. Because I'm coming back from the U.S. Open and I'm beat. I'm still not recovered. These
Yeah.
guys go home for like 2 days, and then they're on the other side of the world under a different time zone, and I couldn't even imagine like that adjusting. And then you know what I mean? Like it's something else, but it's where pool's at, man. And
Yeah.
it's accessible. It's great. It's exciting. It's all those things, man. So,
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun just talking about things. Obviously, the whole WPA thing has been a little bit of a downer, and but the decision's made. Now the players are going to have to decide. And Mike, I need you to stay on here because we're going to do a question of the day for our Patreon. So, guys, if you're not a part of Patreon, head on over to patreon.com/doggin it. We post exclusive content up there. You can join for as low as $5 a month. We'd love to have you. And thanks to all our Patreons that support the show already. Yeah, Mike.
real quick, give me who you think is going to be the USA 5, and then who you hope is going to be the
Not
USA.
only am I going to give you the USA 5, I want to see people put their 5 in the chat. Okay. But here's my 5, and you can book it right now.
This
Jeremy,
is who you want and who you know it's going to be.
If you need advice, give me a
Always
call.
available for a co-captain.
I'm always available.
I got his resume. He may be free pretty soon.
I did well at the Super Billiards Expo one year, but
Oh,
here's my
Joey,
5.
Joey.
Okay, you got Fedor Gorst, you got Sky Woodward, you got Shane Van Boning, right?
We know
Tyler
those two. Come on.
Steyer,
Okay.
Tyler Steyer, pick number 4, pick number 5, Oscar Dominguez. Book it. Let's go. We're gonna
My
win the cup.
man, Joe, you just made my whole day with that.
We're gonna win the cup.
Okay, so okay. Well, and give me your European ones while we're at it.
I mean, that's so up in the air. I don't even know who's in third right now, Mike. I know,
Jason,
like Mario's close, Jason's close. Yeah. Okay, yeah, and Jason is in Hanoi.
He is.
So okay, so then David, FSR, Jason. Okay. I'm still gonna go with Josh. Even though you're doubtful. I'm going with Josh, and then I'm going to go with...
buddy. Insider info. You don't even got to read between the lines here. All you got to do is read the line.
I mean, Kachi might not even make his flight to England. I mean, how are we going to guarantee this?
That's true, yeah. He may sleep in on the Mosconi Cup day.
Yeah, probably Kachi, but I'd like to see Max Lechner.
Oh, man. What is with you, man? You're picking all my guys.
I don't know. I like Max.
You're picking all my guys.
He's playing great. Look at how well he played in the U.S. Open. I mean, 2 years in a row in the U.S. Open.
He is, for sure. He is.
Yeah, so I'll take it. I'll take Josh and Max to be the wild cards.
I'll give my pick on another show.
No, you can't do that. You got to look at all these great picks in here.
Mike saying
Kachi's saying Bergman. Okay. Is there any way, Mike? Jeremy, if you're in here, is there any way, Justin Bergman, any way?
I'm dusting off the queue. Look, we all know the 3 for USA. Actually, I hope it's going to be your 5. Who I think it's going to be, SVB, Sky, Fedor, Tyler, and Wolford is who I think it's going to be. But I'm hoping it's Oscar.
Yeah, we got jokes in here. Gerard Dresch says the 2 co-brothers, Fedor, Filler, and Earl.
Yeah. What are they calling him? Freddie Gorst. Now he's Freddie because he's American
Yeah.
now. I love those, man. Those are
How
pretty funny.
funny was that everybody's like photoshopping the pictures and putting different faces on it?
Um,
Oh gosh.
Team
Mm.
Europe, David, Francisco. Of course, we know that they're
Up,
alive.
Jeremy just said it. Justin's in. No,
Justin's
he didn't
in.
say that. He didn't say
Breaking news. Uh,
it.
David, Francisco, Jason, Kachi, Mario He. That's the five.
Mario He.
That's the five. Filler is not gonna be.
Mario
I don't
He.
know that. That's just what I'm thinking. So anyway, we appreciate all you guys
Okay,
for
hold on,
tuning
hold on,
in.
hold on. One more. Alexa gets the third one. Let's say he gets to the semifinal or final out here, and
This
let's
one,
let's
it could be anyone.
let's make
Look,
Alexa pick number 3. So then you got
look,
Jason as a wild card. Who do you got as 5?
this is what's crazy. If Max and Mario go on a run, they may both be on that team and earn it unofficially, and one may be official. Jason's a lock. I don't care if Jason gets in on automatic points. Mike's been breaking that news for the last, 8 months. Mike said since January 1, Jason's on the European Mosconi Cup team. I
We
believe it, and he's close in points, and he's playing
we
well right now too. By the way,
we said the same thing about Joshua earlier in the year. Now you're off the Joshua train because he went to Qatar.
because Josh decided to go on the WPA train. On that note, we'll see you guys soon. We will be live, I'm sure, tomorrow. We thank everyone for tuning in, and yeah.